There's two articles I remember listening to, and one of the articles was a YouTube video that went and talked about how Tifa's body is diverse. And what they meant by that was, when you look at the scope of Final Fantasy's characters, you will notice that most of the characters in Final Fantasy tends to go and hover somewhere between a B and a C cup. And basically, Tifa's is the only character in the series whose body type is hyper female. And what I mean by that is not just her tits, but her entire figure, slim, trim, long legs, etc., etc. The point, though, is I also remember another article that went on and said, well, surprisingly, Tifa is more than just a nice pair of jugs. And I read the article, and what it's getting at was, surprisingly, that, yeah, Tifa is basically every feminist dream come true. And what I mean by this is, Tifa comes off as a somewhat believable character. She is not perfect. She does have flaws. She does go and care about someone who has issues, to say the very least. The point, though, is while she does care about Cloud and all, it's apparent that it's not a gigantic romance tumor for the storyline. It actually adds to it. She is made a better character by not being all perfect. And the reason I say this is because when it comes to most female characters, they're basically written like men. And what I mean by this is, it's basically 10 feet tall, made of steel, invulnerable, can do anything, has no weaknesses, and they're basically Superman, okay? That's how most characters are written. They're not believable in the slightest bit. Let me put it like this. Going back to Superman, for example, who would you rather go and see, Superman or Batman? And the reason I say this is, yes, Superman is the ideal. But as an audience, we are more likely to care about Batman because, yes, he's strong, yes, he's capable, yes, he's highly intelligent, but he has emotional baggage as well that continually eats at him and weighs him down, and that's one of the reasons people prefer him, because it is the flaws that make him human. Same thing in Tifa's case. She is not perfect. And what I mean by that is, in my theory, she could probably do better than Cloud, but, childhood friends and everything else. But then again, it's kind of like, well, yeah, she probably could do better than him, but the irony is, that's kind of how love works. You go and care about someone an emotional way, and as time goes on, that bond just deepens. And it's like they're not perfect, and the thing is, they don't have to be. They're willing to accept imperfection because basically what they're getting out of it happens to go and be more than the imperfections are taking away. And not only that there, but also keep in mind, Tifa is a monk class. Let's be straight up honest about that. She uses her fist for fighting and everything else. So, a very melee character. And yes, this is somewhat unbelievable because, the additional weight on her chest. Obviously, but the point is, she is a very capable fighter. She can go and stand on her own with anyone else. And not only that there, but here's the biggest kicker of all. Take away Tifa's enormous tits for a moment, okay? Suddenly, she is the best character in Final Fantasy ever. Now, let's go and put the giant tits back in. Now, all of a sudden, we can ignore the positive traits and saying that she is the worst female character there ever was because she goes and paints an impossible beauty standard for women. And I'm sitting there like, okay, but don't women with D and E cups exist in real life? Yeah, they might be few and far between in some cases, but they are women who naturally have enormous tits. And that's just the way their genetics were when they were born. So, does this mean in real life that we should actually go out and tell women who are more than amply endowed that they should go and get breast reduction surgery? Because of the way they look, they are putting other women down. Now, granted, they might go and be genius professors for all we know, or women who are at the top of their field in terms of being a lawyer or whatever else. But none of that matters. All that matters is they got an enormous rack, and that makes women feel inferior because their physical appearance is more important than what they actually do. Are you understanding where I'm going with this? We are basically sitting around and saying, because of Tifa's physical appearance, that trumps everything else. It doesn't matter what she does or say. All that matters is how she looks. In other words, it's kind of like saying, well, you know what? The woman was wearing a skimpy dress, okay? In fact, she was wearing a miniskirt. So, yeah, she went and basically asked to be raped. That's where we are going with this kind of logic. And the reason I say this is because we are expected to go and make it so that women are not attractive. We are expected to make it so that women in the real world don't have to measure up, or their standards are placed just higher than most women will achieve. And I'm kind of like, okay, so what's the problem? I mean, we are completely fine with the women being a female Superman, okay? We are fine with having that level of impossibility to go and meet, okay? But when it comes to physical appearance, oh no, how dare you go and raise the bar on physical attractiveness? And I'm just sitting here like, so you're telling me that as a woman now, it is not important what you do. It's important what you look like. Look, I'm a guy, and if you ever watch my videos, you already know that I am not a feminist. And more to the point, you also know that I go and completely despise feminism because it's basically become another hate movement more than it is anything else. And yet, here it is, even I will tell you that women should be judged on more than just their physical appearance. Now, does this mean that naturally I'm going to go and prefer thin, leggy women who are very attractive as compared to over some kind of fat land whale that can no longer go and move under their own power? Well, yeah, duh, of course I'm going to go and prefer the supermodel over Jabba the Hutt over here. I mean, come on. But the point of it is, even though I go and have inherent biases, I'm still at the very least going to go and say, well, let's go and look beyond physical appearances. Let's go and look a little deeper. Let's look how they are intellectually, emotionally, and all this other crap. And unfortunately, when it comes to Tifa's character, that's the very last thing that women are looking at. All they see is a giant pair of tits, and the rest don't matter. And I'm kind of sitting here like, so let me get this straight. The very thing that women are accusing men of doing, women are doing just as well, but it's okay because it's women. Have I gotten that straight? Also, going just a step further, if we are going to be worried so much about physical appearance, how about we make the female characters more believable? How about we create women that aren't perfect, that have inherent flaws and shortcomings? How about we do that? How about we go and start writing female characters as if they were female characters? Can we actually do that? No, of course we can't. Because a woman with imperfections? That would be misogyny! The point, though, still is, Tifa is more than just a fighting fuck toy, as a number of feminists would put it. Yes, I will agree. She does have a set of milkers that can go and feed a small village. I will admit that. However, she is more than just a pair of magnificent memories. She also has character. In fact, as far as I can remember, I don't think that Tifa's chest size was even remotely mentioned in the game. In fact, the only place that I can recall where it was mentioned was only in a kind of way, and that was at the very beginning of the game. And that was when Cloud was actually sleeping at the Seventh Heaven bar. And basically, when he went to bed, he woke up in the morning, and Tifa asked him if he slept good that night. And one of the conversation dialogues was, sleeping next to you, who wouldn't? And I cannot remember her response. It was either she didn't know what he was talking about, or she didn't know how to react to it, something along those lines. The point, though, is that Tifa is more than just scenery dressing. She is a character in her own right. She will actually go out and do what has to be done to get the job done. Because she's not just fighting for herself or for Cloud, she's basically fighting for everyone she cares about. The fact that she has a clear and definable character is an important thing. In fact, when Cloud went AWOL for a little bit, yeah, Tifa actually went and took the main lead as the character the player controlled for a little bit. And personally, as far as I can tell, the only reason that Tifa is getting so much hate is just because of her physical appearance. And no matter how you look at it, that is really messed up. Especially when, as a man, if you went ahead and commented on a woman's appearance, for example, like some woman who was dressed real skanky-like in real life, and you went and called her a whore, feminists would lose their shit and accuse you of slut-shaming. And yet, the irony, of course, is that here it comes to a fictional character that doesn't even exist, and they're like instant laser-guided amnesia, and they do a complete 180 and start doing the exact same thing they would get onto if anybody else went and did this. And when you go and sit and think about it, that's really the problem with feminism in a nutshell. It's not really about fixing anything. It's about being a victim. It's about saying, oh no, this is offensive to women, and because of this, they don't have the courage or the self-esteem to go and do X, Y, and Z. And as a result, this entire field needs to change and adapt itself to the needs of women. It's kind of like the guy who went and landed a probe on a comet or an asteroid, and the feminists were more interested in the guy's shirt than his achievement. And they're like, this is keeping women out of the STEM fields. And I'm just sitting here like, if all it takes is a guy's shirt that has scantily clad women on it, and keep in mind the shirt was given to him by a female friend. Well, okay, then something tells me women are not all that secure to begin with, and they're actually kind of weak and fragile and can't really handle the real world. In which case, I really believe that entering the science field is going to be the least of their problems. And especially if that's all that's going to take to keep them out of it, yeah. And also, do I really have to point out that yes, what feminists are doing does sound like a stereotypical woman thing? You know, they don't really care about the scientific accomplishments. They just care about what people are wearing. That has more importance than, making science history. And the thing of it is, when you sit down and get to it, that's probably one of the reasons Tifa is one of the characters that people like to go and hate on her. Not that she has big tits. That's not really the reason. It's because she is better than most women. Take the entire fat acceptance movement. Apparently, if you can get enough women to go and believe that being a 500-pound land whale is okay and healthy, well, if everyone's a 2 and you happen to be a 2.5, then for all purposes, you're basically now a 10. In short, no matter what feminism does, one thing that's noticeable is they can't do anything without tearing someone down. Whether that person's male or female, it really don't matter. The point is, I have yet to see a feminist do anything that is positive without actually having someone as the quote-unquote bad guy. And I could go on about how we can have words like bad guy, gunman, bad man, con man, and all this stuff. Or we can go and have feminine terms like sister cities, mother nature, etc. But if we go and have anything like manhole cover, policeman, or whatever, then that's politically incorrect. I could go on all that, but that's a subject for another time. The point, though, being, feminism talk about strong and independent women. And the sad thing is, that is what Tifa Lockhart is in a nutshell. She is a strong and independent woman. Yes, she has someone she cares about. Yes, he's messed up, but the kicker is they find a way for it to work. And yes, one does care just as much about the other. And I'm going out on a limb here, but when you look at it from that perspective, the fact that Tifa, as just a person in general, where she's kind, where she's lovable, where she is actually capable of emitting positive feelings, considering that most feminists are just bitter, hateful, and resentful women who just got an axe to grind against either men or society, yeah, I can understand why they would hate her. And yes, I am aware that I am essentially picking low-hanging fruit here. But when you think about it, I have this one question I really have to ask. Who in their right mind would enter any demographic where your side is not heavily represented? And that's not a bad thing. I mean, just because something is heavily dominated by a male or female, if a gender who is not the main demographic wants to be a part of it, that's fine. I got no problem with that. In fact, I encourage it for the sake of diversity. The point, though, is it's people who enter in this field and they have no interest in being a part of it. They have no desire to partake of what everyone else is doing. And rather than creating their own whatever that will cater to them, they expect the entire group to go and change to suit them. Much like what happened with the bronies. And for those who are not aware, bronies are people who like the fourth season of My Little Pony. They are really into it, and don't ask me why. Essentially, these are grown men who have an interest in a show for little girls. So, not just age, but also gender, there is a difference. And what they essentially did was, they went and made their own community. They went and made stuff that they actually had an interest in, and it was just done to the tune of My Little Pony characters. Now, yes, I will agree. There have been some horrifying stuff coming out of it, such as Cupcakes, which is basically set to the tune of the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, aka Sweeney Todd. Also, there is other grim dark works that are either violent, gore-ridden, or just so crushingly depressing. And of course, because if I don't mention it, people are going to get on to me, there's also Cloth Art, which is basically pony porn. Okay, now, I will be fair. For something that came out of a little kid's show, this stuff it ranges from disturbing to horrifying. Okay? And I will agree with you. But here's the kicker. These bronies, for all that they are doing, here's the thing you gotta keep in mind. They do not expect the community to accept what they are doing. In fact, the entire idea is they go and do their own thing. And if you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, that's fine too. You really don't have to. In fact, you can actually go ahead and you can actually go and add their stuff to your block filters, and as long as stuff is appropriately tagged, the odds of you seeing any more of that stuff is very slim. And so, here it is. Yeah, they're doing creepy stuff, but it's actually self-contained to their little group. That's the entire idea. They are not spreading it to people who don't want to see it, or at least to my knowledge, they're not. And if they are, then usually that's a few bad apples. And while people can go and sit and say, well, yes, but it's a little kid's show, and okay, fine, I agree, it's a little kid's show. And if these people want to go somewhere else with it, that's fine with me. Let them do it. Let them have their fun. Just because they're doing stuff you personally do not like doesn't mean you have to partake of it. For example, they are video games that I do not like, and therefore I do not play them because I have no interest. Sport games are one of these demographics. I have no interest in sports, and so I don't fool with it, and I don't worry about it. I let those who want to go and play them, though, have their fun, and I do something else that I enjoy. Ideally, this is how it should work in real life. Unfortunately, that's not how things work. What happens is, women will usually go and complain about bronies and all, say they're ruining the fandom, they're making it toxic and everything else, and they're basically saying how they should go and lead the community. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, but when it comes to male-dominated geekery, you expect them to welcome women with open arms, okay? And yes, I have heard certain arguments, such as women who go and cosplay and they're very attractive women. I've heard some geeks go out and say, well, they're not a true cosplayer because they're just dressing up for attention. And also other stuff like they really don't know X, Y, and Z. Or they're not aware of some minor detail that's not really important. Yeah, all this stuff happens. And I will go and agree that is not the attitude one should have. Personally, from my perspective, and the way I see it is as long as people are just willing to enjoy the fandom, that's all that really matters. More people being interested in what you're doing tends to go and be more important than what their gender is. But the problem, though, is this is not happening in the video game community. What's happening is we got people like Anita Sarkeesian going on and saying, oh, these sexist gamers, they are doing horrible things. You see these characters, they're all dressed sexy. Can you imagine that? A female character being very appealing to a male demographic. That is misogyny. Oh, and as for this shirtless guy over here, yeah, Kratos, yeah, he's almost completely nude, wearing nothing but a loincloth, but that's okay. He's a male power fantasy, so when it comes to him, we don't have to worry about it. Because, come on now, we all know that women aren't going to play God of War now. I mean, can you imagine that? Women actually playing God of War? And even if they did go and play it, it's not like they're going to go and oogle over him or nothing. No. None of that's going to happen. That's why male power fantasies are okay, but sexy women on the screen? No, that's just too much. We can't have that. We can't have sexy women. Now then, me personally, to go and counter this crap, I'd come off and just say, well, you know what? The stuff you see on screens, these scantily clad women who don't mind showing lots of tits and ass, well, that is actually a desire fantasy for women. Yes, men will go and enjoy it and appreciate it for what it is, but that doesn't mean that a woman playing this game might actually sit and think to herself, wow, I wish I was as beautiful as this character is. And yes, I imagine if I actually said something like that, I'd be attacked and pretty much being called a rape apologist and everything else because, well, apparently we can go and say whatever about men, but the minute you use the exact same arguments done towards women, oh no, how terrible. And yes, this is the entire problem with feminists and SJWs. And to go and let you know what I'm talking about, this would be like if a bunch of men went into the makeup or the women's fashion industry and went on about how that none of it caters to men. That the entire audience that it caters to is women. And as a result, they need to go and change things to be more inclusive of men. Now, yes, I am aware they are men who wear women's clothing and they are men who use makeup. But the vast majority of men do not, okay? And I'm not talking about the ones that do, okay? I'm saying people who have no desire to use any of this stuff. They have no desire to wear women's clothes, and they also have no desire to go and put on makeup. But they want to be catered to anyway. What kind of reaction do you think these people would get? Yeah, that's right. They would be laughed right out of the room. It's kind of like you don't want to be a part of it, but you expect to be catered to in the off chance that there are some small minority who may have an interest in it. That don't even make any sense. And yet, when it comes to video games, feminists and SJWs, this is what they've done. They basically walked in, said, we're offended, and because we're offended and we're all a victim now, we expect everyone to cater to us. We expect to go and have what we want and desire, even though we have no intentions of playing, let alone buying, any of your games. We will not spend one copper penny on a console, on gaming hardware, or any video game. But we want to be catered to because what you are doing is sexist towards us, and even though we are not part of this demographic, we expect to be catered to anyway, as if we were. Now, no matter how you want to look at it, that's some heavy-duty level of entitlement right there. It's like being a taxi company and saying, oh, those pedestrians, They're not our target audience anymore. Our target audience are people who ride bicycles. Yes, those are our target audience. People who already have a means of transportation and can get around just fine. We need to go and target them and listen to what they want and desire and screw the people that can only get around on foot. They don't matter. Okay, well, any company that would do that, what do you think's going to happen? Okay, well, it's a matter of money coming in, money coming out. You're putting your money into something that your core demographic doesn't care about. It's of no importance to them. So they're not going to buy it because it's no longer of interest. Meanwhile, you've already spent millions to go and develop whatever, and the people you were catering to don't want it. We've already seen this in the comic book industry here, people. Just about making Iron Man a woman or Peter Parker being black. And I'm like, well, what does this have to do with anything about their character? I mean, if it changed the story somehow, I'd understand. But if it's like, oh yeah, it's still the same thing, just a different skin color or a different gender, everything else is the same, it's like, well, okay, then it's kind of pointless then. Because could you not have just created an entirely new character from cloth and actually gave them their own series, their own backstory, their own personnel and everything else? Would that not be easier? And yeah, it would have been, and if it failed, it failed. But the point of it is, by doing this, all that's happened is their core demographic, they're not buying comics anymore. They're not interested in what's going on. They do not care about that social justice crap that's being shoved down everyone's throat. Well, okay. Again, this is basic marketing. You target whatever your market is. Whatever your market wants, you try to deliver it to them in the hopes that they'll buy it. If you're going to target someone that has no desire to use your product and probably never will, that's a waste of revenue. You're wasting your money because why would you cater to someone that's not going to spend money and allow you to develop your business as a whole? Again, this is basic marketing. I could care less about social whatever. In a business, your only concern should be money. How do you make money? I'll give you a hint. It is not by pissing off your user base. That will actually do the exact opposite. And go out and be fair, if a company actually did want to make an SJW game, that's fine. As long as the game they're making is solely targeted at these people. It's kind of like Steven Universe. I think Steven Universe was made by an SJW crowd. I gave it a try, and surprisingly, it's a good TV show. I mean, I hate to say this, but it is a guilty pleasure of mine. And the point, though, is, well, okay, start putting stuff out that's whole cloth if you want to cater to these people. However, stuff like Dead or Alive and, people want bouncing boobs, get them bouncing boobs. If that's what the people want, give it to them. And you can sit and say misogyny all you want. The point, though, of it is, keep in mind, watch TV shows, movies, or whatever. Guess what? Sex, violence, murder, all this kind of stuff, that's in it. But somehow when it comes to video games, oh no, we can't have that now. And I'm kind of like, well, okay, people have been saying they want video games to grow up. But part about growing up is to accept that we do not live in a sugar-coated wonderland here. We do not live in Candyland or the Big Rock Candy Mountain. We live in the real world. And in the real world, violence and sex happens. Okay, I will agree. They can be done badly. And if that's the genre and the way they want to do it, that is fine. Let them do it badly if that is the end goal and it's supposed to be campy. But at the same time, just because you may not approve of these elements, they can be done well and in a highbrow way. The only problem, though, is when you go and self-censor and you try to cater to people who really will not go and help develop your market, you are literally shooting yourself in the foot. And yes, to go and tie this all back to Tifa now, that is essentially what the problem is here. The people who are not the target demographic, who are not the market for what Square Enix is peddling, it is pointless to satisfy them. It's kind of like the guy who ended up having the entire headache of people who were transgender and everything else. And so what he went and did was, instead of creating a new bathroom, he just simply removed the signs and said, hey, it's a bathroom, everyone go to it. Male, female, it don't matter. It's a restroom. Everyone, do what you have to. And he actually still got under fire for doing even that. And I'm just like, well, yeah, there's no winning with these people. You could go and create the best whatever, and these people who have it set in their mind to be offended over something will still go and find stuff to bitch about. This already happened with The Walking Dead. Yes, we have a diverse cast of characters. Yes, some of them are gay and of different ethnicity, but oh no. The women don't go and have any extra body hair. They're all well shaven, and so are the men. This is just another way of the patriarchy asserting its control over women. And I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, I give up. There is no making these people happy. That's because they don't want to be happy. They want to be miserable. And they want to make other people miserable. There's an old saying, you are responsible for your own happiness. You cannot make other people happy. They have to make themselves happy. If they don't do it, they will not be happy. These people are not happy. They want to go and be miserable because that goes and validates them as being a victim. This is true with feminists, and it is true with the SJWs. Changing Tifa's chest size will not go and stop the complaints. They will find something else to bitch about because that's all they know how to do. Their only talent is to be offended and to be a victim.